Women's football is currently on a steep incline in growth and improvement as more eyes have gradually turned towards the women's game and interest is at an all-time high. Club supporters of the men's teams have begun to regularly show up for the women's fixtures to show their love for the players who wear their respective badges with pride. In England, the amplified growth in women's football has now called into question the amount of room that it can be afforded to really grow, as recently a few women's Super League matches had to be called off due to poor pitch conditions, which has left many people to wonder why adequate facilities are not being provided for the women, just like their male counterparts. The issue of gender inequality in football has always been a great issue, and it's only in recent years that efforts have begun to be put forward to bridge the gap between men's and women's football. From the likes of equal pay for both men and women in the Norwegian national team, to the occasional women's matches being played at the likes of Stamford Bridge and the Emirates. The focus of the divide has now seemingly turned towards undersoil heating. To those who are unaware, undersoil heating is the process in which a heating system is installed underneath the pitch of a football ground, beneath the roots, and it acts as a sort of radiator that fights against the pitch freezing over without harming the grassroots either. This results in a pitch that is always ready to be played on at any time of the year, and more importantly, it greatly reduces the risk of injury that players may experience on a pitch that is frozen over. As an interesting piece of trivia, Everton was the first club in England to install undersoil heating at Goodison Park in 1958. Many clubs across the globe have also installed this piece of technology in their respective grounds, and it is even a requirement in Germany for the teams in its two top-flight divisions to have undersoil heating should they wish to participate in their respective leagues. In England, however, the FA have not made undersoil heating a prerequisite for all clubs that fall under its umbrella, so it is much more of a luxury than a necessity. The cost of installation of an undersoil heating system is touted to be around £500,000 British pounds, with operating costs being estimated to be £3,500 every 2 days, which in a month comes up to £52,500. For a regular Premier League club, these costs are nothing more than chump change, which would not even marginally dent their bank accounts. However, for lower league clubs, such costs are simply astronomical and would surely bankrupt the majority of them sooner rather than later if they ever installed undersoil heating. It is at this point where you may be wondering, what does any of this have to do with women's football? And well, it's just that women's matches in England are regularly played at the grounds of these lower league clubs. Take for example the Arsenal women's team, who are the only English team to win the Women's UEFA Champions League. Rather than the glitz and glam of the Emirates Stadium, the women plied their trade at Boreham Wood's Meadow Park, which, as aforementioned, is one of the grounds without undersoil heating. Now the blame of the situation cannot be placed at all on the door of these clubs, as the respective teams are just as affected by the lack of undersoil heating. In all fairness, no one can be really blamed for this situation, as it is just one of those things, the only exception being at a stretch, maybe being the FA galvanizing their frankly Scrooge McDuck levels of financial resources to sponsor a national initiative for all club grounds in England to have undersoil heating. But Tottenham would sooner win a trophy before any of that ever happened. Because of the lack of undersoil heating at these grounds, a serious conversation needs to be had regarding the direction of women's football in England, and if now is the time for clubs to fully invest in their women's teams by moving all their fixtures to their parental home grounds. Occasional women's matches are held in stadiums when club organizers see the potential heaps of cash they can afford to make off big games like a derby or European knockout ties. But surely now is the time for the serious conversation to be had for women's games to be played in the same venues as the men's games. The occasional women's games that are played at main stadiums have presented a general trend that there is a great interest in women's football, with fans coming out in their tens of thousands to see these games. Admittedly, the number of fans that attend these matches fill up an average of 55% of the stadium they are going to, and even that is a bit of a stretch. But the fact that crowd capacity is increased in accordance to where the women play does surely suggest that there is an undoubted appetite to watch women's football by more than just the ardent supporters who turn up regularly. Whilst the logistical and financial aspects of making such a move are surely mind-boggling to say the least, it can be argued that the end is ultimately justified by the means, especially for a club were to execute the migration with finesse. A range of ideas can be explored to ensure that women's football games are moved to bigger stages, from organizing their fixtures to occur just before the men's in order to act as a type of curtain raiser, to limiting the stadium capacity and offering advertising opportunities to those interested as a means of getting around the current crowd sizes and reducing financial losses as much as possible. Ultimately, the migration of women's football games to the grander stadiums that merit their talents will be a wholesale effort. Not only from a club level, but even the FA will need to be involved, as well with regards to fixture scheduling to avoid clashes of men's games domestically and continentally, in addition to all the other headaches that will come with this monumental movement, should it ever come to pass. That is it for today's video. Women's football is only going up in the world, and stalling its progress serves no great purpose to anyone at all. But other than that, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.